Welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity in the third attempt. Mousy bite there. I'm grabbing something before I head out for students. I hope everybody's having a good time. We have plus 21 down here in the GTA, Southern Ontario area. Northeastern Ontario is about to get slammed with snow the last time I checked. But it's part of living up in the north. So, first thing tonight is thumbs up to our ladies in the World Curling Championships. They just won against Norway. Really watched the last few ends of it. I just happened to luck into it. And some really good shots, some nice steals, some from both sides. So anyways, Canada won 8-6. So thumbs up to our girls. Keep it up. Here's hoping we get to see you on the podium. That's number one. Number two is, as a couple of videos ago I said how I was hurting for our American cousins and going like, what the hell happened, folks? And I'm hurting for them more and more because I honestly believe that the majority of people who voted for Trump did not know really, really what they were voting for. A lot of people don't trust politicians because the politicians don't tell you everything, right? They tell you the stuff they want you to know. And so people are discovering that this isn't exactly what they thought they were voting for. But one of the things he's pushed, and he pushed it in his Trump version number one, was going to bring back the manufacturing. He was going to bring back the coal mines in West Virginia, with me going, they're dead mines. How can you bring back something that's dead? But that was how he got the votes in Virginia the last time around. This time it's going to bring back the manufacturing. And people are going, oh, all the jobs. Well, TV and media, and looking back at the 50s, 60s, there was a lot of manufacturing jobs because it was very labor intensive to do it. And so my story here is that when I was my year between university and teachers college, my dad managed to land me a 6-week job at General Electric on the lines. So literally it's just a line of fluorescent light bulbs doing this, and you would sit there and watch it go by, and if it wasn't lit, you took it off and you broke it in the garbage can behind you. And then every so often somebody would come along and clean up everything you'd broken. But you had to make sure it was broken. That was the fun part. But there was 4 or 5 of us on this line just watching these light bulbs and grabbing them. And their ladies would sit there with magazines reading them because out of their eyes they could see if the light bulb was not lit. And they'd grab it, take it off, and throw it out. And that's how it worked, with one person loading them on the front end. Well, I got my 6 weeks, and about a year later, Dad made some comment that that line had been changed. So before there was electricity running through it, obviously to see if the light bulb was going to light, but they installed little sensors, and the sensors would sense whether or not there was electricity completing the circuit in the light bulb. And if the sensor noticed that it didn't complete it, that light bulb was automatically knocked out because obviously that light bulb didn't work. And so now we didn't need 4 or 5 women sitting there watching light bulbs go past our face to see if they were good or bad. We only need 1, maybe 2. 1 to load the front end of the machine, and 1 just to be there just in case and to clean up for anything that broke. That was it. So we went from 4 or 5 people working one line to 1 or 2. Automation, more effective, yeah. But that means there's 2 or 3 people who no longer have a job. And that was a while ago. Like a while ago. Watch videos from Ford or Chevy or Nissan or whatever. It's all automated. Where before it was literally 2 or 3 guys would pick up the bumper and they'd hold it into place, and 2 other guys would come and bolt it in. Well, now it's all great automated computer arms. And they don't need umpteen people. They don't need 4 people putting on each bumper. They need 1 or 2, right? That's it. 1 guy running the machinery and specialists making sure the machine's working fine because it's got all the computer chips and all the rest of it. But all that heavy-duty manual labor is gone. And so when these people who voted for Trump, who envisioned all these manufacturing jobs to come back to the United States, They're envisioning what they saw on the TV or what their parents or their grandparents talked about in the 50s and 60s. And it's not going to happen because that's not how manufacturing works anymore. It's all automated. It's all fast. And this is where, as over the last day or so, I've clarified in my mind that this is where I'm hurting for them. So some of them know. They're so gone down the rabbit hole of MAGA that no. So they'll always find somebody to gaslight. They'll always find somebody to blame. But for those people who honestly thought that doing what Trump was saying he was going to do was going to make it better, those are the ones I hurt for, because it's not going to get better. And it's not. And then to build these factories, these manufacturing factories, the companies have to put in billions of dollars in infrastructure. You can't just reopen one of the car manufacturing things in Detroit. Those things have been closed for eons. They're not up to date. I mean, the foundations, the walls are there, but you got to take everything out and reinstall. Are the companies willing to spend those billions of dollars? And where is it to the point where all the costs of all those tariffs coming back and forth as the part goes from U.S. to Canada to be manufactured or changed or fixed a little bit, Canada to go back to the United States and then go down to Mexico for something else to be done, and all those little bits, and every time it crosses a border going from Canada or Mexico into the States, there's an extra 25% tariff added to that. At what point is it not worth the company manufacturing the car? They're just using the car, but that goes for anything. So that's where I'm hurting for them, and it's going to hurt us in Canada too. That vision of the 50s and 60s where everybody had the cute little house in suburbia and everybody had a job at the local factory. It's not going to happen. A, because manufacturing isn't the way it used to be, and B, the U.S. doesn't have the infrastructure it used to have. And they have to rebuild all that infrastructure, and that's a really, really expensive process. And are the companies willing to go in and to build those factories? There was one that was thinking about moving from Montreal down to the States just to get around shipping and a few things, and they just thought it would be more cost effective. But then they really looked at it, and somebody who owned a whole bunch of shares, I think 4% or 5% of the shares of the company, went, no, I invested in this company to support the Quebec industries and the Quebec economy. You don't. And so they didn't, because then they looked at the bigger picture. So there we go. That's 1, 2. And the third thing is, as the U.S. and dear old Donald Trump, and I'm never sure if all the other politicians honestly believe what Donald Trump says, or they're just mimicking what he says because they don't want to be in trouble with him, because they're afraid for their lives, because all Donald Trump's got to say is something to one of his mega followers, and that person's family could be in trouble. He has said they don't really have an armed forces, which no, but I concede our armed forces is small and it needs more money put into it. I don't argue that. But he's going, well, why are we protecting them? If they're not the 51st state, we shouldn't be protecting them at all. And now he's got upset because we're honestly looking at and seriously talking to companies in France who already build fighter jets. Could we please order 20 of them? Kind of mentality. Same thing with the submarines. So our Department of National Defense is looking away from the U.S. for all of these military acquisitions. Now, Mark Carney gets to be the one that says, hey, this is what we're doing. It doesn't, procurement of these kind of things doesn't happen that instantly fast. So we can just say that Bill Blair, who is head of the Ministry of Defense, has been working on it for a while. Let's not say that Mark Carney walked in and bam, look what he did. He just gets to be the face that gets to take credit for it. But the other one he has signed with is with a radar version that is top-notch out of Australia, which he has already announced, and it's aimed for our Arctic, to protect our Arctic and the Northwest Passage. So we are doing things. We are diversifying. There's a bigger push on CanNewsAc, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and the UK. Okay, that organization. And I've been reading that they are pushing and talking about getting free trade, literally, honestly, free trade, free movement of people from Canada to Australia to New Zealand to the UK, like those four. And based on what I had said in my video on that organization, that our educational systems are really similar, our parliamentary system is very similar, our currency is very similar. The only one out of the four that doesn't call it a dollar is the UK. They call it a pound, but it's still a decimal system. It's not the old-fashioned pound. It's the decimal system. They just call it a pound. So those are things that are really going forward, and should make us feel good, because that it's happening. We are making a difference. Our government isn't sitting there and just twiddling its thumbs. So things are looking good. Things are looking up. Outside of summertime, spring is here, and I can get out in my garden. So anyways, there's sort of more upbeat chit chat today, a short one. I got to head out for some students in 2 minutes. So take care, guys. We'll see you next time. And just to our ladies at the curling championships.